All right, welcome everyone. Can you hear me all right? Yeah. I can hear me pretty well. So I want to welcome everyone. I know that we have families. If you're a family member, raise your hand. Okay, nice to have families in the house. We have, yes, friends. Any friends? Awesome. One friend. We need to work on our friends, people. Right, we have community members in the house. I see one. Miss Cassandra, who did Love by the Slice, just so y'all know, Love by the Slice, Black-owned business in Hilltop, the desserts tonight. And then our professors. Can you raise your hand if you are a professor in the house? Amazing. Let's give a round of applause for our professors too. Well, if you're joined us tonight, we are so very happy to have you with us here. You're gonna see something that's really special. There is a group of folks that you're gonna get to learn and love like we do, and they've done a lot of work. Professor Jessie, who was not able to be with us tonight, has a special message, and she talks more about that. But I want you all to sit back, relax, and this is gonna be more immersive than maybe some other things that you've done in the past. This event is meant to be interactive, and you're gonna be able to get together with our cohort of master's students, graduates in hours, and be able to see really what they've created over this last year, or the last 6 months, and really this culmination of all their work over the last 2 years. So to begin, I'm actually gonna start with a message from Professor Jessie. Let's see if I can get this to work properly. You know what we'll do? First thing we'll do next then, I'll introduce myself then. So, who's this guy? My name is Jeff Dade. I am Director of Community Development for Forterra Northwest. I am a contributor to this cohort, as well as a graduate myself. And we've done something special, and we're really excited to talk to you about it. I'm waiting because Jessie really sets this up really well, Professor Q. And so I don't want to steal the thunder. But I told you about our interactive piece tonight. We'll have a land acknowledgement as well as a dedication. And I'll kind of get you oriented while we're waiting too. One of the things tonight, we do have a couple of speakers. We'll get them fairly snappy to make sure y'all can hear from the students, because they're the feature and they're who we're here to see. So, any luck yet? Sound-wise? Oh, we got Aki. You know what we'll do? I'm going to go ahead and start. And what I'll invite everyone to do, I'll do my dedication before the land acknowledgement. So this is from me. This is not from the University of Washington, who they have one that Jessie is going to, that's very well stated. This is a little something different. And so I invite you all to be in the space with me. This dedication has to do with the space that we're in right now. And if you don't know about it, there's more that you can learn. I have business cards, and there's learn about Forterra and the work that we're doing Hilltop. You're gonna hear from Brendan Nelson, who is a local community leader, about the larger development that's going on. But I welcome you if it's your way to, don't tease me. If it's your way to close your eyes, or just to be with me in whatever way that suits you, okay? Encouraged by the tribal leaders amongst the Squamish.
Okay, first time.
Never mind, we're gonna go back to our program.
Hi, everyone. Okay, first I'm gonna do a land acknowledgement. So we in the School of Urban Studies, and also as a group of people who are presenting work today that is about the land that we currently call the city of Tacoma, we acknowledge that we are meeting, connecting, and learning here on the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Puyallup tribal nation. As people connected to the Academy, we commit ourselves to confronting and resisting the ways that universities have been and remain complicit with settler colonialism and genocide through the placement of our institutions and through university support for settler world-making projects. As students, educators, and community planners, we commit to disrupting this dynamic and to advocate for and partner with Indigenous people as we continue our lifelong work together as leaders and learners. Okay, so I am so sad that I can't be with you all today after this wild journey that we've all been on. I am incredibly proud of this crew of students / professionals who've put this project together for you today. The process of putting together the Hilltop Community Asset Map has obviously been about the nuts and bolts of mapping sites, of doing interviews and researching histories, and it's also been about things that are a little bit more ephemeral, but just as maybe more important. It's been about having the honor of being guests on the Hilltop, tasked with learning, listening, staying humble and accountable to those who've been here much longer than ourselves, and holding up the preciousness and strength of this community. It's been about creativity. It's been about rolling with the punches, working together and working things out. It's been about folks thinking through their own experiences, identities, and values to explore what kinds of community planners they want to be, what kinds of work they want to do, and how they want to do that work, ethically and effectively, as part of broader efforts for more just cities and a more just world. And I am so excited about who they are and who they are choosing to be and the kinds of work that they are choosing to do. This has been a really rough year. These folks did this project in some adverse, pandemic-y kinds of conditions, and they persevered, they kept the course, and they kept their humor. I am really excited that they get to share what they've done with everyone here. So thanks all. Have fun.
And Professor Q is with us via Zoom, so she can feel your love tonight. Please join me for this dedication. Encouraged by tribal leaders among the Squamish, Anishinaabe, Tobique, Algonquin, and Mohawk nations to personalize acknowledgments in 2022, I offer this dedication, and I encourage you to create your own. I know that we exist in a time of profound reckoning with the pain and tragedies that have created our society. I identify as Black American, and with pride I stand with my ancestors whose very blood, bone, flesh, and skill are the wealth that created and secured this nation. In the face of centuries of entrenched anti-Black discrimination, harm, and induced inferiority, I dedicate my vocation to countering bigotry, the reclamation of Black heritage, and recognizing the full spectrum of Blackness. I am aware of the Puyallup tribe and other Coast Salish people who, since the beginning of time, have cared for and lived on the land we stand on today. I understand that their removal was forced and that this living community continues to fight to live in their ancestral homes. I invest in reckoning with Black and Latine socioeconomic well-being, stopping Asian and Pacific Islander and LGBTQ+ hate, and inviting white allies to decenter whiteness as we all recomprehend what should be to discover new futures for our children. I promise to be a positive force for pro-social equity. Thank you for joining me. So I want to bring up to the mic first a dear friend and a great leader, great local leader, Brendan Nelson. Can we give a hand for Brendan Nelson? Come up to the mic.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you all for being here tonight and allowing me to come and share just a few words with you all. I must say this has all come full circle for me. My heart is full in this space, and particularly where we are sitting holds a special meaning for me. Literally, where you are sitting is just a special place. About 2 years, probably more than that, 3 years ago, we were a part of a team called the Community Investment Council. And we were kind of tasked with working with Forterra around their work here in the Hilltop. And one of the things that was so important for us was that before any work began here, they had to get familiar with this place, this space, this neighborhood. So the one time that our group of probably 15 or so plus Forterra staff had a chance to meet was right here in this space. And what we did was walk this building. If you don't know the history, this building sat vacant for almost 10 years. Metal coverings on the windows, a large fence around the entire property. It was a place that crime happened, lives were lost. And so we came into this space and walked the whole perimeter from every angle. And then we gathered together in a circle right of where we all are now, and we reclaimed this space. Many folks reclaimed this space for a place of hope, a place of love, laughter, joy, excitement, dance. And what do you see now? You see dance taking place, art being displayed, and there's just life brought back to this space. So this holds special meaning for me. So when Jeff asked for me to have a few words, I definitely said yes. So as many of you came to this location, you probably noticed you couldn't get in on one side of the street, or there was a lot of things going on. This is a busy neighborhood right now. Hilltop is going through a huge change. Just growing up blocks away, this is different for me. It's not the place I once knew, but I'm excited about the work that is taking place, mainly because there's a large investment in people that look like me having a stake in this neighborhood. Being part of a family that was displaced in the early 90s, my mom and dad were told by the landlord they wanted to buy the house from, I will rent to a black family, but I will not sell to a black family. And so that has been the driving force in a lot of the work that I do here in the Hilltop. So it's been such an important part for me to work with folks like Jeff and Forterra, the Housing Authority, when they're saying we want to invest in the Hilltop, but what does that look like? So I've been extremely excited to know that there's an investment to bringing Black-owned business back to this neighborhood. Cassandra, loving the work that Cassandra is doing and how she's serving this community with love and compassion. And there are many others who are doing this as well. But I want you to know that it's just not about putting up housing, right? It's about bringing back folks who have been displaced, welcoming them back home. And that has shown up in many, many, many ways. You look around, you see art, you see different things that are out on our corridor. And what I get that feeling of is like, this is a signal for us as Black people that you can come back home. There's space for you where you were once pushed out, come back. And I've been so grateful to work really closely with Forterra and the Housing Authority on their projects, and to see that Black artists are getting opportunities to live out their passion and invest back into the community from, if you look across the street, the Housing Authority is putting up their development, and there's a Black artist who is responsible, Tiffany Hammonds, for the art and what that development will look like. And there are 3 other developments that Black artists have been brought on to do that work. The Link Light Rail that will come down this entire corridor, Kenji Stoll, young artist of color, is responsible for the art that will be coming down this entire corridor. That's huge. People from this community. And so for me to come from a family of being displaced, now knowing that we can come back, and generations after us will be able to come. We honor the life of George Riley through this work, a name that is not mentioned often enough. A man who came in to build a Black neighborhood because we didn't have places and spaces to dwell. So we honor him in this work. And so my hat goes off to each student that has worked to make tonight happen. Coming in and sharing time with you and hearing about your work was so inspiring. So I thank you for uplifting the voices of the Hilltop, the history that many wanted to be lost. They didn't want to hear about the Black investment, how this was a Black corridor, how the work was being done here by Black folks. So thank you for taking the time to invest your energy in hearing some of those stories and just bringing that back. And then a thank you to Jeff, who has this deep passion for this. We talk often about we got to tell these stories. We have to tell these stories. We don't want them to be lost. So I'm extremely grateful for what we will see tonight, and I'm extremely grateful for what will come. And I will say that this is just not a moment. I'm hoping that as you are here, you're learning, you're taking in, that you also will invest in this community. Go support the Black-owned businesses. Go support the small businesses in this neighborhood. One final thing I would say is I'm extremely proud when the pandemic hit, the Hilltop did not have one business that closed. Not one. Because community rallied around, and there were people buying gift cards from this place to take them over to folks who were in the encampments, welcoming them, and they are our neighbors as well. So that's what the Hilltop is about. That's the richness. That's what makes us so great and so strong. So I'm excited to be in this space with you all tonight and to learn and to journey together. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Brendan. And truly, without great leaders like Brendan, our work wouldn't be nearly as relevant, and we wouldn't be connected in the right way. So right back at you, Brendan. So now you are connected with some of the why and the what, right? Hearing from the community. Now, I want to introduce you to a what if. I'm going to state it like that. What if a community-driven nonprofit and that had a community partnership with the Hilltop, and what if a urban serving university that had a long-standing stake and a dedicated staff that were really looking to do something different? What if those powers came together and formed something? What might that be? I'll leave it at that because you're going to get some answers soon. So I'd like to welcome up Dr. Ali Modares. Also, if you would come up, Aki, Vicki, Claire, and Michelle. You'll be right next to Dr. Modares on the side.
All right. I'm a little bit shorter, so I have to turn this down a little bit. I need a height here. Well, good evening, and hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. I shouldn't be invited, but I was. So I'm happy to be here. On a normal day, I'm the dean of the school, but I'm not now. So with that in mind, I wanted to say a few things about the importance of the work. It is really a rarity to have the moments in which we engage learning in what we call community engaged learning. It's not just a classroom-based, but actually it's community-driven, and community voice is front and center in that. I really appreciate the evolution of higher education to that point, and I appreciate urban serving university mission, but particularly urban studies. We are the face of that. And urban studies has been long-term commitment to, has had the long-term commitment to that. So thank you for the work. This generation of students have done magnificent job. I still have to go through to see all the great work that has been done. But at the same time, I want to say that there are generations of students who have now committed their time, and we commit to this work as we go forward. Thank you for all you do. Now to the faculty and the mentors of these projects and all the work that we do. Without you, that community engaged learning would not happen. So also I want us to, tonight before we all leave, thank faculty members as well and the staff who dedicate their time to this work. Thank you for that, but my thanks go to the community for allowing us to learn with you and enrich our learning opportunities, because we would not be doing the work that we do without your voice, without your guidance, and without your leadership. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting us to your space, and I hope that we can build a place together. So the long institution of University of Washington, Tacoma, urban studies, and the communities that have been here for decades, if not more, we can build a future together of relevance, of mutual learning, and mutual support. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Vicki Murray, and I am one of the students who is going to be presenting tonight. I'm going to be setting the background information for what the historical context of Hilltop is. So here we have a timeline, and I know it might be a little difficult to read if you're further in the back, but I'll explain. So from the beginning, Hilltop has been a place where the Puyallup tribe has called home since time immemorial. It was an old growth forest way before it was colonized. Moving into the contact era, we moved into mostly Scandinavian colonizers and settlers who took home in the area in the lumber industries, and they created their home here in North Tacoma, Hilltop, and then further into Parkland. Moving into the late 18th century, the beginning of the railroad started coming through this area. So the terminus of the Northern Pacific Railroad was coming. Chinese immigrants began moving to the area. They also worked in fish processing along the waters. So they didn't necessarily reside specifically in Hilltop, but I think the context of them and the experiences that they had in Tacoma is really important to signify, because the Chinese immigrants, while they provided this immense labor force, were then immediately forced out in 1885 through a violent riot that was government sanctioned. And so that kind of sets the tone for what Asian immigrants in the area had to deal with. Post-Civil War, there was a recession in 1893 that made land values decrease in price and then allowed Black entrepreneurship to come into the area. So people like George Putnam Riley, Nettie Asbury, John Connor were able to buy up large acreage in this area pre-finalization of the railroad. And so by that investment, they were able to create a Black-centered community here in the early 1890s. Moving into the 20th century, we had several wars. We had World War II, which brought Black soldiers. We had Vietnam, which brought refugees. And then we had genocides across the globe that brought more refugees from the Ukraine, from Vietnam, from Cambodia. And so that also colored Hilltop in a more multi-ethnic, multi-racial community. So those immigrants were also pushed out in a violent overthrow of the Japanese community, who were located over here on this side of Hilltop. They were forced out during World War II in the internment camps and have not been able to return. There's no space for them now. And now Hilltop, despite all of this struggle, is a very resilient community, and it's host to a very diverse set of community members from both Black, Indigenous, and Asian and Eastern European backgrounds. So I'm going to pass it off to Michelle, and she's going to give you more of a context of what Hilltop is like now.
Hi, everyone. Whoops. My name is Michelle Noelani Keokahi Burchett, and sorry. The question of why Hilltop matters is constrained by the context of the current moment. As we gather here today and review the results of the asset map and the area, it is framed in the context and understood by the history of prior efforts and the arc of economic investment over the past 10 to 20 years. Anyone who's spent time in Hilltop and returned today and haven't been here for a while would look around in disbelief because it's changed so much. In urban studies, one thing that is proven time and again is that gentrification follows the light rail. Our map shows significant efforts by municipal, federal, and county agencies, local nonprofits, and faith communities who've come together and worked to to bring economic development opportunities to the forefront while mitigating the negative aspects of gentrification and displacement. Fab 5 and the Hilltop Action Coalition take a leading position in centering their work on those issues. The diaspora of African Americans from Hilltop does not change Hilltop as the space, quote, where Black identity resides, the Black home where Black people can breathe, end quote. To this end, Hilltop is ground zero for civil rights activism and social justice movements. On the map, you won't see many of the individuals who do service in the community. There are several people that are dedicated to the preservation of the Black history, working with and providing children who are hungry, feeding the children, and working with the homeless and providing assistance in recovery. Today you can see some exciting research from our cohort, fun ideas and interests as a new generation of students who are engaging in community development. And it is an honor and a privilege for me today to be here with my brilliant cohort who are passionate, stunning, brilliant scholars, and showcasing a place that I have deep ties to. Thank you. I'm going to pass it off to Aki.
Thanks, Michelle. Good evening, everybody. You see, call and response, we're all friendly here. No need to be uptight. All right, so my full name is Miguel Akira Smith, and I just go by Aki for short. I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about what a community asset map is and why we created one in the first place. So I think one way to think about this is like asking yourself, okay, how do I measure wealth, right? You can put dollars to it. You can put all kinds of fancy metrics. But one way of thinking about wealth, I think, can be through stories, right? Through places, through memory, through history, through context and relationships. And oftentimes, you're not able to see that, right? Just from looking at a set of numbers, or maybe even what you might find in a Google Maps directory. A community asset map is a way of peeling back the layers that make up the vibrancy of an area. And in particular, as we had the chance to go out into the community, right, conduct interviews, conduct photography, do this field work, what we uncovered were a series of vibrant, rich layers made up of organizations, right? Businesses, community members like Brendan and some of the people who we have in this room. What that helped us to do, right, was contextualize all of that within this space, within this neighborhood. And it gave us a way to help try and create a sense of shared understanding for other people, right? So whether you had been here for a long time, you were just visiting the area, or you're thinking about making this your home, right? You can come to Hilltop. You can use the community asset map to understand your neighborhood and the people within it, or at least give you a sense of that, right? Hopefully, once you are able to interface with this tool, right, you develop your own curiosities and you take a moment to go and venture out alongside others. But what we knew is that there's inherent risks in doing this, right? It's not always clean to try and go and collect interviews. Who are we in position to this community, right? I think one thing that a community asset map also has the potential to do is disrupt. A community asset map gives a community the opportunity to retell their story. And that's exactly what we're doing here today. Because whether we want to recognize it or not, there are narratives, right, that have been placed on the Hilltop. And I think that this community asset map gives us a chance to combat those narratives and redefine what is going to be not just the past, not just the present, but also the future of what people in this place appreciate, what they love, right? And what they can hope for their children, grandchildren to inherit. And all of that, right? All of those risks that we enter have to be mitigated. At the beginning of this process, we took a moment to develop some common values because we realized, right? Like I said, we all have different positionalities to this work. Therefore, we need to make sure that we're treating each other with respect, right? And also seeking that out in the community to make sure that we're treating people how they want to be treated, telling the stories that they want told. Which meant that we needed to, one, recognize that the residents here are experts on their own lived experiences. You can stand for that. Yeah, I see you, Brendan. Yeah, right? And we are guests. We are guests as students. We are guests as people in community and in space. Every time we step foot in this community, whether we've been grown up here or not, we need to recognize where we sit in position to that history, context, and all those memories. And at the end of it, right, what we were doing at the center of it is community-based participatory research, which is where we're co-creating, not just dictating as institutions have been known to do onto communities and oppressed individuals, but it's a co-creation process that we were seeking to exemplify here, and I hope you see that and reflected in all of my colleagues' work. And with that, I would like to tell you, or we would like to tell you a little bit about how we did that. So I'm going to pass it to Claire.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, all right. Thank you, Aki, and good afternoon, everyone. So I will be taking us through the sort of beginning to end process that we took in order to be able to deliver this product to the Hilltop community. I first want to share that this process wasn't simply just gathering data. As we've learned as community planners cannot effectively collaborate with a community without even beginning to do the research of where they come from, what their strengths and obstacles are, and what they hope for the future. So that's where we started doing our dang research. So this included many readings, some documentaries, getting to listen to resident interviews, and in grad school we had many class discussions, as you do. We were also fortunate to be able to listen to our partner, Hilltop Action Coalition's president, Brendan Nelson, talk about a community that he knows to its core. So that was really special. So I know this research to me was, hold on, I feel like I'm, oh, yep, there we go. It wasn't only informative, it was really like, you know, I wanted it that way. It was inspirational, and I wanted to just like get in there and get started, but there was some other work we had to do. So this is kind of circling back to what Aki was getting on about the importance of value work. So as professionals, because we know who the professionals really are, it's really important to take the time to reflect and analyze your identity and your positionalities, either be individual or as a group, in relationship to the work that you're trying to achieve. So, for example, the majority of us are not from Hilltop, so we had the opportunity to work with, do a workshop with trainer Jennifer Arnold in working with communities while thinking about your positionalities and centering reciprocity and accountability. So this is just one example of the sort of reflective work that we did in preparation. So now I'll take you through our action work. It's a lot of little steps, so we'll keep it going. So as a cohort, we established a set of guidelines and checkpoints to assure that our work was comprehensive and unified. The work was divided into these categories with groups of 4 to 5. And then each group was responsible for both identifying and contacting the businesses and organizations within their category. This included communicating via email or phone or video call, or in some cases, getting out into the community and having conversations, or taking photos and walking around in the space. I know Aki got some really awesome shots of artwork around the community. The data points were then to be gathered were put into a survey, and then that was all collected into a spreadsheet, which we sent to a Forterra GIS map specialist. The data to be collected was gathered in one of three ways. So either the organizations self-filled out the survey, a student was given authorization to fill out the survey, or a student and a point person collaborated to fill out this information together. So throughout this whole process, to keep ourselves in check, the cohort throughout the whole time made check-ins to identify any overlaps or gaps and address any tensions. So on top of gathering the data, each student was responsible for creating a spotlight piece for one category in each of the sections to really showcase the assets within Hilltop a little bit more deeply and richly. So I don't know if she's here, but shout out to Miss Shayla Lemons. We had a really awesome conversation about hack, and that was really fun. So that's pretty much it from how we got from point A to B. But I just want to say during our time working for the studio, we were given the opportunity to work with a community that's like the heart and blood of Tacoma, in my opinion. Our methods were intended to go beyond simply extractive data collection so that we showcase the community in a way that it could be excited about, and it was showing the history and the people and the assets in a way that they wanted it to be shown. That being said, we do feel that there were some limitations to our work, and we feel we could have shown up for the community a little bit better, so we just wanted to go over some of those limitations really quickly. I did have one. So we know the importance of accountability in this work to assure that our actions and interactions have merit, and that while our cohort knows that this work is going to be continued on by our partners, it was not to our understanding that this information was expressed uniformly to the participants in a way that is assuring and gratifying for their time. So it'd be in the future, we hope to let everybody know what we were doing, where it's going, who they can contact, and making sure everyone's on the same page. And they're huddling.
Sorry, we're just getting ourselves straight. I think that the reflection that I have is to incorporate a feedback loop. I think that when we gather this data from the community, in order for it not to be extractive, we really want the community to approve it once we've gathered it. So we're at the phase now where I would say that this is that feedback, but if this project were to continue on into future cohorts, we would want to reincorporate the community over and over and over and really get their buy-in on the project.
I mentioned earlier about putting, how do you measure value in a community? Well, I think you can make the community asset map, but there's also, opening that checkbook, right? So what I would say is that instead of worrying about how we could mess up this project, right? Dreaming in the potentials of how we can get it right, I believe starts with dedicating long-term funding to make sure that this is continuous, that it's upkept, and that it can continue to benefit not just the people here now, but the people who will come to this community and forward.
And I would just add that doing a project like this in just one quarter is just not enough time. Perhaps 2 quarters, a 6-month period of, planning and prepping and getting out into the community. I really think that students being out in the community is vital. I think it's a great experience, and I think it's needed. So, thank you.
So we know that UW and Hilltop have a really great working relationship. So we're just hoping with some of these reflections, we can be agents to continue improving this working relationship to make it better every day. And that's what we have. Thank you.
One more round of applause, please. Again, this is Michelle Burchett, Miguel Akira Smith, Vicki Murray, and Claire Tupper. So we're going to pull up your first look at the beginnings of this tool that we've created. Now, one of the great things, I love that we have the reflections and the limitations. One of the great things, I was Brenda and I were back there shaking our heads just at how amazing, how awesome this has been, and how it's going to be tough to lose all the students as they graduate, because part of our work together is doing exactly what they're talking about. And they weren't necessarily privy to all the downrange things, but that's what we get paid for our jobs. And one of the great things for me, I love how this cohort, they love this work. They truly are passionate about the work. And you hear what I was hearing, I want you to know, that's a little bit of frustration. They're being so kind, but that's a little bit of frustration in there, maybe a lot of bit of frustration, where I want to see this thing end. And I've spoken to community members, and I know I don't get to continue it, and it needs to continue. Damn it, right? Can I say that here in this crowd? Is that okay? All right. So truly, such a blessing to work with down-to-earth folks, super smart, that want to do something different. And I think it's a tribute. I might be a little bit biased with both my degrees from UW and this particular group of professors that we know and love. But I believe it's something that this, and they didn't pay me to say this, there's no pay in this part, the idea that we love Tacoma. I see one of my primary mentors, Linda Isham here, and I remember going in a survey course in 2009 on Pacific Avenue and learning about the city that I had been a banker in for almost 20 years already, and learning just things I just overlooked, right? And it's that kind of love for this city, our big little city, right? And being able to make moves in different kinds of ways. So that's part of our spirit that's here. What we're gonna do, each of the students at their stations, how we're gonna move forward now, there's two things that are gonna happen. Three things that are gonna happen. One, I'll dismiss everyone, because I never get to do that, and that's pretty fun. And you'll go through and just at your leisure, go to the different stations. Each of the groups has their own space, and there are layers in the maps that we created. Each of the stations will actually have, you have the experts that created the information. So again, the first thing, you'll disperse and learn more. But the second thing is we're gonna come back right at the end for a really quick moment to come together and to see if there's any comments. And then we'll end quickly, and if you would like to, you can go back and talk to our amazing students some more. Any questions from the audience right now? Okay, then you are dismissed.